Okay, for this section, we're going to talk about a data analysis method that's more along the advanced lines. It's not required, and you may not have access to it. If you do, though, this tool, query is one way to call it, or SQVI, there's SQ, 01. There's a few tools, but the one I really like is SQVI because you can build queries on the fly, and what it saves you is really multi-table analysis. So not so much single tables, but when you start doing multi-table analysis and you start cutting and pasting and copying data around or dropping it out to Excel, it can take a while. So especially if you don't need to share that data so much with other groups, if it's really just you're doing some kind of first cut analysis and trying to figure something out in the system, this is a great way to go. Now, you may not have access to it as well because there's always been some performance issues with this, writing queries that do selects on the fly, right? Because you're going to hit the database, you're going to have things going on in the system. So it's, often not everybody's going to have this in production. You might have it in your sandbox or quality or development system, and you could probably get access to it in some sort of a sandbox just to do some troubleshooting, here and there, or get temporary access. Okay, so again, you can just enter the, SQVI to get there, or to find it in the menu path, let's go down to Tools, ABAP Workbench, Utilities, SQVI, and here you'll see Query. A little bit more to Query. It's somewhat similar, but just for ease of use, we're going to go into SQVI. Okay. And within SQVI, you see a little information here on the left, right? But then basically what you're doing here is you're going to write something called a quick view. And you can kind of play around and get comfortable with everything. See, there's some different options in here. You can see one of the things I wanted to show you. You can create, copy one that's already there. There's additional functions here. You generally generate a program out of this, delete them to kind of clean them up and get rid of them. A lot of times people will use these for analysis and then just leave them out there. If they're not needed, it's always great to remove them from the system. So we'll go ahead, and if you think about our last example of VBKD, okay, and VBAK and VBOP, all the stuff that we're doing with these multiple tables, we'll go ahead and build something in off that. So we're just going to call this Z test analysis. The name's not really that important right now. You can usually do a little prototyping, come here and try and create one, okay, give it some title, give it some information, and then just delete it and keep on redoing it until you get it quite right, because it's fairly quick. There's not a whole lot to it. So let's call it test analysis right now. And then your data source down here, you have a few options: table join, logical database, or info set. Okay, so the logical databases are, collections of tables that are already pre-set up in the system. You can use those and search in the system for logical database. You can use an info set if it exists. Tables, while you can use table, let's look at that real quick. If you go into table mode here, you're entering a single table. So, you can build a query against a single table. It's fine and it works, but right, you just have a single table here. So it's similar to going to SE16N, which is a lot quicker, right? You just pick your fields that you want, add them there. You can maybe build a little bit more fancier output from it, but that's not the big advantage. The big advantage here really is, let me back up here. No, I'm not going to save. Is we're going to create this and we're going to do something called a join. Okay. So again, this really builds on what we've learned earlier before. Type in my title. Okay. You need to be familiar with the tables in the application, and you need to be familiar with that data model, how they relate together. If you are, or you just kind of gathered that information through all your application analysis, you're going to know how to build this, okay? So if we think about our order here, and we think about going back to our data model, I know that VBOC is basically the header. I've got my VBKD, and then for the business data, and my VBOP for the items, and K1V for the pricing. Knowing that information, you can build basically a model here on the fly that you can query that data against without having to pull the tables down by themselves. Okay, so let's take a look at basically our example, our previous example from VBKD. I'm going to insert table VBKD, and you may be wondering, well, why insert VBKD? Why not start with the VBOC? Remember in our analysis, we wanted to go off of a certain pricing date. So while you could go that way and bring VBOC in first and then limit it, filter it by the pricing date, I'm thinking of the select. I'm thinking that the select would probably bring in all documents, and then out of all documents, filter down to a certain pricing date. I'd rather just bring in only the documents from those pricing dates and then filter by those documents. So I'm going to go do the same thing here. I just want to select this table. Okay. I'm going to bring in table VBAK now. Great. And see what it does for you. It even automatically knows VBound's the key in both. So that's our join. You can see the join condition up here. You can delete these, change them around. You can always even try and build your own joins too. Normally SAP takes care of this for you. If you've got Z tables, you might need to build that, but we can keep on going. We're going to stop here, but we could add in VBOP, we could add in K1V. We'll come back and do that later. You add in enough tables here and you can just move your navigation around to see everything. One caution here is just not adding too many tables, that it slows everything down to where your analysis is just too time consuming, and bringing in tables that are not related, because you can have difficulty with join conditions and it's not going to be as meaningful here. Okay, so once you get everything in there, then I just want to do a check. Make sure that you've got a good join here. Okay, and then I'm going to go back, right? And we have our data source. Okay, now we have all of our selection fields. So, and you can use your search over here. I know I want to search on pricing related information. So there's price group, price list type, okay, date for pricing and exchange, okay. That may be when I want time for pricing, sales and distribution, pricing procedure. Okay, we know I want to get pricing procedure. Okay. And let me do this too. Let's pull in order type. You just kind of play around with these until you get all the right fields that you want. And I'm going to change this from order type to sales document type. There we go. I'm going to pull that in. Okay. And I'm going to go back to my dates here. Try and find that pricing date again. Great. Invoice dates, fixed value dates, date for pricing and exchange. So I'm going to pull that in. Okay. Now we've got our basic selections like we had when we were going against VBKD and VBOC. Now, once they're over here, you can move things around. Let's say pricing procedure, I'm not as worried about. Pricing dates can be my main one, so I'm going to move it up to the top using the arrows over here. You know, if I had accidentally brought over one that I really didn't care about, like say fiscal year, say I brought it over here, I can always select it and I can move it back. Okay, once you have your selection fields all set how you want them, then I can look at my output too here and say, well, what do I want to see? I mean, I could literally say, show me everything, right? Which is going to be a whole lot of information. But what this then does for us too is I don't really need to do that. I can come in here and just say, only bring over the fields that I want to see. I mean, you can see I've got 102 fields in this table, 239 in this table. Let's move them all back over there, okay? And then rather than pulling everything in like we did in SE16N, just pull in the fields that I need for the analysis. You know, the fields that I really want to see. So this is it takes a little bit extra work up front, but once you're done, then I save this and it's very quick each time, right? So I don't have to re-go through all this analysis. So let me move a few fields over. I know I want sales document and sales document item. To me, that's kind of always the bare minimum, right? Because if I have my sales document and my item number, I can go find the rest of the information. But let's say also I want to see the Incoterms on it. Okay, now I'm going to search. I want to see the payment terms. Okay, great. I want to go see, let's see if we can find the, not the user, I want to go see create, date on which the record was created, and name of the person who created it, because they can generally help me out with the document and know give me a little bit more background information on what was going on with it. And remember over here, we selected the pricing date, pricing procedure, and document type. I may also want to come over here and add these fields in as well to my output, even though I have them on my selection criteria. So they're not automatically brought into the output. Now sort sequence, you can do the same thing on your output if you want to sort it in a certain way. You know, I'm going to sort by sales document. I don't care about the item as much. And the things that you need to sort on better be in your output there for it to work correctly. Okay, so it's good enough. Once you have all this done, then it's just a quick check, make sure everything's right. It's kind of generating your selections. Okay, you get any error messages that you can kind of work through. More or less everything works out fine as long as your join is correct over here in your data source. Then you can execute this to test it out. Okay, once it generates, you see there's our title. It's come up here, and then our selections. And we can enter, it's more of a report format, right? But enter it just like we were entering it in SE16N, right? Okay, I could enter my pricing procedure there and limit that. I'm just going to leave it open for now. Okay, and then run our analysis. The first time it'll compile, and then boom, we have everything that we need limited down to the fields that we want to see. With that in mind, now we can do the same thing. I can kick this out the spreadsheet. I can print it off. We can just use it online, okay? And you build whatever analysis you need. I haven't had to go and pull from different tables and all that. It's right there for you in one spot, okay? Then the real beauty of this is you save it, okay? And then every time I come back to SQVI, I can go back in and just run it right away, okay? If other people want to get involved too, we can convert it to a query, okay? We could assign a report name to it, and others can use it, and that's basically it. Okay, in the next session, we'll come back in. I'm going to show you a few more features on the query. You have everything that you need now, but I want to show you how to do some changes and a few more pieces on it too.